At the beginning of the second grade of high school, I joined a circle outside of school with the introduction of a friend. I had to stick to my school life, but I was curious about the outside world. I took charge of the president's role in this circle. The circle president had more things to care about than the class president. With the gathering of boy and girl students from various schools, it was not easy for me to coordinate matters, such as the program. I neglected my studies as much as I could during these circle activities, but there were many things that I could learn through the meeting. I was able to develop my social skills through interacting with other students. In a broader society, I had a lot to learn. It was fun to attend the meeting because half of the members were girls. It was a change for my calm heart. We could not just play in the circle. During the meetings, we held for discussions of different subjects, group chorus, and questions and answers. As a big event, we held a night of literature or did a rural service. In addition to regular meetings on Saturdays, members often met to prepare for events or benchmark other gatherings. We were in a circle like brothers, and I was happy to forget about my stuffy family circumstances when I went to the meeting. I used to be a model student when I went to school, but after school I got along with my friends extensively. There was no violence in the neighborhood. I sometimes wandered around the neighborhood late in the evening. During the weekend or summer vacation, I played soccer with my local friends, played Baduk, the game of Go, and went to the wedding hall of a stranger in the city or looked around exhibitions. I wanted to experience everything others do. I went camping with some friends at Mount Samak and Dongsong Falls in Ganchon, Gangwon Province. However, on our way back from there, we ran out of money and rode a passing truck for free. It was reckless. Now, I feel that it is the right way for students to live on the advice of teachers and adults. While I had neglected my studies and played outside, I did not meet the level of abacus calculation and bookkeeping required by my school. My family had become more difficult, so I couldn't pay tuition for the first and second quarters, even until the summer vacation. The teacher urged me to pay the tuition almost every day. One day, when summer vacation was coming, my homeroom teacher called me to the teacher's room. "Your friend took money from another friend's father to pay for your tuition," the teacher kept on talking. "If he pays for your tuition, it will make you fall into a lake of self-reliance. I want you to arrange it for yourself." I was resentful of poverty, and I was disappointed by what he said. Even though I was getting help with my tuition, it was a moment when my pride was hurt. Did the teacher really come to that conclusion on an educational level for the student? Or was he afraid he was going to be in an awkward situation? I wanted to know what the teacher was thinking. As soon as I finished the summer vacation ceremony, I saw a part-time advertisement on the school bulletin board and visited the office of a high-rise building in front of Seoul City Hall. It was a job of visiting and selling books called The Jewish Method of Commerce. They said that the pay will be based on the sales performance. I came back home with 5 books in my school bag. To sell books, I had to go through the building and visit offices, but I just couldn't find the courage. For a few days, I kept books in my school bag. In the end, I couldn't sell even one copy and returned them. Some friends said that they worked at the construction sites during the vacation and made pocket money, but it was not easy for students to make money. A few days later, my parents had a big argument again. At first, my mother put up with my father's words, but the argument grew bigger when she stood up to him. My mother, who was so bitter, always preserved to protect her children. Even though it's hard for my family to live on, my father pestered my mother by arguing over something not to be said. I hated my father. I didn't even know the word PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, at the time. I just resent my father for being an irresponsible man who can't afford to make a living and who can only inflict mental pain on my family. I even thought it would be better for a father like this to be away from home. All of my brothers hated him, refused to take part in his life, and avoided him. That day, I could not take it anymore, so I left the house with my diary. It was evening, and there was nowhere to sleep. I entered the concrete structure under the construction. The neighborhood was in the midst of redevelopment, and a lot of row houses were being built. The site I entered was the site of the housing construction that my friend's mother was building. His father passed away early, so his mother had to take odd jobs at random to make a living for her children. There was no private rice bowl in his house, and the only dishes were a large bowl, some side dishes, and some spoons. My friend's family sat around a large bowl and ate together. Still, my friend's mother had two houses in the neighborhood. I slept a night at the construction site there. It was midsummer, and when I woke up in the morning, I felt stiff all over. I was as good as a beggar because I slept on the concrete floor, and I starved breakfast as well as last night's dinner. I had a lot of friends in the town, but I didn't have any friends that I could go to for a meal. Everyone, including me, was having a hard time to live. Fortunately, the next day was the day I went to Gangwon-do for summer service for a circle event. I couldn't afford not to go to the service, but I had no choice but to go because the accommodation was settled there. I wasn't going to volunteer. I was in a position that I needed help. During the summer service week, there was not much that the city youth could help with in the season. Most of the students enjoyed volunteer work as if they had left home to play. I envied my friends who played and enjoyed themselves to the fullest. I hid my bitterness and helped out in the village by remaining silent as a loner. One evening there was an entertainment program for the residents in the playground. The host nominated me to sing. I couldn't think of a song suitable for the scene because all I could think about was my family. I sang Mother's Grace. I couldn't stop crying as I sang. I sang it all the way to the end, but it ruined the atmosphere of the playground where the temporary stage was set. At the end of the service period, some of my seniors called in the boy students, including me, at night. A senior told us to clench our molars and then hit us on the cheek one by one. You ruined this service because you guys were in a disorderly state. As the president, what did you do? I'm going to expel all of you from the circle. I decided to leave the circle soon after the volunteer work because I did not care for it anymore. I didn't know why we had to be assaulted. Even during my service, I wrote in a diary, and I wrote my resolutions in it. Iron is stronger the more you beat it. I came home after a few days of running away from home. As I planned to do a few months before, I cut off not only the circle, but also my friends in the town, and stayed indoors to concentrate on my studies. I used my father's sewing machine as a desk in a single room to diligently study the abacus calculation and bookkeeping. The two subjects were compulsory. At the end of the summer vacation, my father found work to do and made some money. Whenever my father received money for the goods, he gave me the money and told me to collect it to pay for the tuition. When I started school, I took the certificate test for abacus calculation and bookkeeping. I passed the second grade in abacus and second grade in bookkeeping in the first test, which was required by the school. It was just a skills test, but I was very proud of my belief that I could do it. I practiced on the abacus without a break. The abacus was a sacred subject to help keep us fed. When a friend drops the abacus, he would say something funny. "Oh, my meal!" I still think of that friend. Since then, I practiced hard on the abacus and continued to take the first grade test. At that time, there were some institutions that carried out the qualification test, which was almost every Sunday. I passed the first grade test in abacus after passing it in 10 attempts. As the saying goes, there were no trees that could stay up with 10 strikes of an axe. To take the bank entrance exam, I had to concentrate on some subjects, such as English and common sense. The bank entrance exam seemed more difficult than the college entrance exam. I had enough qualifications for the commercial subject. Next, I had to study general subjects, but I kept thinking about this and that. Some friends shaved their heads to study, but I took a more intense approach to concentrate. I stabbed my left forearm with a pencil sharpener. Whenever I couldn't concentrate, I looked at the wound in my left arm and woke up. If you stick to one thing, there is no thing you can't achieve. In the beginning of third grade, students who wanted to go to school were divided into two classes, and they studied very hard to go to college. Students in the employment class also voluntarily stayed in the classroom after school to prepare for their job exams. My mother packed 2 lunches for me when I went to school. One day when I was studying at school, something special happened. The world-famous Reverend Billy Graham preached at Uido Square. In the evening, I went to the rally in Uido with some of my friends who were studying in the classroom. There were countless people sitting on the ground in the square listening to the sermon. When Reverend Billy Graham said, "If anyone is determined to believe in Jesus, get up from your spot," a lot of people got up. They seemed to rely on Reverend Billy Graham in the spirit of putting down the heavy burden for a moment in their lives. The most important subject in the preparation for employment was English. Most of the students read Zhongtong General English as an English textbook. While I was reading the English textbook, I noticed an example sentence. "A dog is a faithful animal." I, who liked living things and dogs, read it many times, appreciating the sentence about a dog. I thought it was a human-like attitude to follow his master faithfully in life, not betray him, and follow him to the end. I thought that the man, as the supreme creature, should not live a life inferior to a dog's. I wished to go the right way, even if I had a hard time living. I always practiced that English sentence about a dog by appreciating it. It was the day when the final exam for the first semester was over. D Industrial Company has asked for a job recommendation to the school. The qualifications for the application are excellent academic performance, first grade in abacus and second grade in bookkeeping. Think about the job recommendation and tell me your opinion at closing time. I raised my hand at the last hour. The next day, the teacher led 5 applicants, including me, and headed for D Industrial Company. The company was famous for hard work and high payment. It was 3 kilometers from the school to the company. It was not easy to walk there because it was summer, but the teacher led us without any signs of difficulty. An executive interviewed us. "Can you work at night?" "Yes, sir. I'll work my fingers to the bone," I answered as my homeroom teacher taught us before.